Apart from coming here as an away manager, is this the first time you get a chance to just come around? How long are you here for, and kind of what's the thought process behind it?
Yeah, I'm here for the day. I've never been to this training center, and we've talked a little bit about the old days at Claude Robillard. Very different setting. But we're trying to do a little bit here in the community to see different people. I wanted to come here to CF Montreal to say hello. Also, look, Joey's a big reason why I've done this, because we've now had a good relationship over the past couple of years, and we've reconnected, and I've been, really impressed with watching his team at Bologna, and I had a chance to visit him there, and then he and I spoke about the times of the past. He's followed my career in Europe, and it was really nice. It was cathartic for me, actually, to reconnect with Joey and to know that he was so supportive of me to be the Canadian national team coach. So, I'm really thankful to be the coach of Canada. I'm being here back in Canada and seeing how many people were excited about the performances and the team, and feeling like we electrified a nation. I think we're proud of that, and it's just the beginning, but it was certainly a really good start for our team.
Just another quick one for me. Before the tournament, I got a chance to speak with you. You said at the time it was 10 months ago, I think, you spoke with Joey. Mm-hmm. Now you're saying it's maybe a couple of years ago. What was that first contact? Was it a text message? You just ran into each other?
So he is pretty close with a guy named Oliver Mintzloff, who is the head of what was the head of Red Bull Global Football. Now he's like sporting head of Red Bull. He's on the board. He's very high up. And I think Joey and Oliver have a really good relationship, and then obviously Oliver and I had a really good relationship for our time in Red Bull. And so I think from that, then when I moved to Italy and I wanted to get a hold of Joey, Oliver connected us, and then we went from there. So it was also really nice. And today, again, I saw Luca. I always really admired his family, and his wife and my wife were friends when we were all here. So we had some really good memories and some good times, and it was nice to connect and like really in a good way, professionally, privately, in all ways, feel like we could connect the dots and then appreciate how to move forward together as a friendship.
When I saw that you were coming here to Montreal, the first question that came to my mind was, when is Canada going to play here? The men's national team is going to play here. They played here 5 times since the turn of the century. The last time was in 2017 against Curaçao. So do you have any plans to maybe bring the team here for friendlies in the coming months or years?
I believe, I don't want to let anything out, but I believe that eventually here, as we secure some opponents for the upcoming windows, that there is an emphasis and hopefully an announcement that we will be playing back here again. I don't think that that's certain quite yet, but I know that this is a big emphasis, and it's something that's important to me. And I've said, playing in Montreal would be, I think, important for the community there, for me to be back there and be part in that community again. So it's something that we've definitely talked about.
I had a couple of questions, one about the team and one about a couple of players here. When you took over and you had such short time to get organized, it was a little bit of a surprise for us to see that you went to a back four. They've been playing with a back three for so long. Obviously, it was a risk, changing all that in such short period of time. What made you believe that would work and say to yourself, let's roll the dice with this?
Yeah, in the end, the reason I took the job is because I believe that there were a large portion of the player pool that could play the way that I think about football. And so, I wanted to try to challenge them to adapt to a new way of playing as quickly as possible. And of course, there's certain things that have been established from the past that I knew were important, and we continued to try to use in the way we did things. But specifically defensively, I knew that we had to become more aggressive, more intensive, more dynamic. We had to be better at pressing and counter-pressing. We had to sprint more. We had to be more confrontational physically and in duels. So, and part of that is getting pressure on the ball, and I think it's harder to get pressure on the ball if you play with a back three or back five. Now, we kind of always morphed to then when we had possession to playing sometimes with a 3 or a flexible 3 that became a 4. And because the players are so intelligent, they were able to adapt quickly to the tactics and to the behaviors and to the principles of what we wanted to achieve. And that was incredibly positive. I would not have thought that we could have not just gotten the results that we got, but that perform in the match and be as clear tactically as we were. So it made it fun. And the players, I think, appreciated what we were doing, understood why we were doing it, and were able to adapt and commit to it in a really high level.
I got 2 questions about the players, some players that are here. Sam is the captain here, been for a long time. Obviously went to the World Cup, did not get a chance to play. Now at Copa, also not being able to play. Late 20s, he was obviously sorely missed here while he was gone. What would be your message to him? I mean, should he start considering maybe leaving apart, the national team and saying, let me focus on the club, or how do you see it?
Look, I think Sam, first of all, is a consummate professional, like incredible, one of the best professionals I've ever been around. And he can play at a high level, and he adapted really well to the things I was asking of him. And then it was just trying to think about how to use the player pool, how to push every player within the group to be ready to contribute, and how clear could they be on what their role would be. And look, Sam aside, one of the best things about Uruguay was when we made the changes, and we can talk about Mathieu next if you would like, but how everyone came into the group and looked like they didn't skip a beat and performed almost better than some of the others that had been playing. So, and Sam, I know if he would have been called upon, would have been able to perform in that way as well. So I don't think it's time for Sam to think about moving on. I think it's just him adapting to the things that I like and that I want from him, and being ready for to continue to perform here with his club team, and then be ready when he's called upon again for the national team.
When John Herdman was with us, he encouraged players who were playing in the MLS to seek, maybe contract opportunities in Europe. Matthew's in a situation here where possibly he'll be moving on. Do you think that he needs that in order to continue growing with you guys?
Look, I would be an advocate of players moving to Europe as well. However, it's situational. One of the things is I spoke to Stefan Estacchio, and I said, look, being at Porto's a great club, but you've got to find a way to get on the pitch. You've got to play. It's hard to be able to then commit or be at the highest level possible with the national team if you're not playing consistent 90-minute games with your club team. And he agreed completely. And he loves being in Porto, but I think he's evaluating what's best for his career moving forward. And that's a good example of any player. Of course, I want all these players to achieve in their personal and professional lives. And that's from a playing perspective, a financial perspective, so they can provide for their families. In all ways, we want them to be successful. But it doesn't help if you make a bigger move to a bigger club or a European club if you're not playing. Now, I think Mathieu has big potential in who he is as a player. And right now, I still think he's in a good way improving here. And if the right situation comes up, it's up for him to evaluate and decide what's best. But again, players need to play. We can't have a national team full of, if I call in a camp of 26 players and 13 of them aren't playing regular minutes, that's not helpful to us either. And I think we showed that it doesn't matter if you play in MLS or if you play in Europe. If you're fit, you're sharp, you understand what we're trying to achieve, you can commit to it, then it doesn't matter where you're playing, you can perform for us. And that will in the end be what's most important.
Jesse, you did a lot of great things during this historic run, but maybe the W was a bit lacking, only one victory. Yeah. And what would be the tipping point when you do everything best and good, like against Uruguay or against Venezuela, but what would be the tipping point to having the W?
Look, the Uruguay game was outstanding in terms of now really understanding how we want to play, committing to the version of football that I want the team to play, creating the chances we wanted to play, finishing some of the chances, but then we gave it away a little bit in the game with a little bit of an inexperience in certain moments and not being able to shut the game down. In general, throughout the tournament, as well as we performed, if we would have converted more chances, we would have had more leads. Then maybe I would have been able to rotate more players at the end of the match. And then even by the time we get to the semifinal, maybe we don't have as tired legs and we can push in that match a little bit more, because Argentina was able to rotate throughout the tournament because of their player pool. They've been together a longer time. They were able to manage games in the lead up. So we're just at the beginning phase, right? But the most positive sign is that the team is adapting and evolving and developing. And along with that, our ability to be more efficient in front of the goal will provide us more leads, and now continue to build with the belief and the confidence of what's being done. So this was an incredible start, but it's only the start.
You can buy speed, and we know that Canada has a lot of speed.
Yeah.
But you talk about freshness. Can we be able to have this style of play and be efficient during the whole game? So how do you balance the fact that you want them to press, counter press, be aggressive, playing top speed, and still be mentally stable?
Yeah, well, look, when we press, it's not like we're pressing every moment. We're compact, we're organized, we're disciplined, and of course we need to manage things physically, mentally, tactically throughout the whole match. But we did that well, right? And in a hot tournament, we have a young team, we have a powerful team, we have an explosive team, and they'll grow. And once they understand more exactly how we're going to use the tactics and the philosophy to create strategies and match plans, we'll be able to now continue to manage. I mean, it's incredible that our team performed so well, so clear, so organized in 6 weeks' time. Argentina's been together basically 6 years, right? And there's a gap there, obviously, between the two teams, but the gap's not like unmanageable for us. And I think even if we were to play those matches again in a year, that they would look differently. And that will be the goal. I have to now find a way. I'm new at being a national team coach as well, but I've got to find a way to make sure that we're developing and we're evolving continually throughout our process together. And we'll do that. We will do that.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi.
You talked about confidence, getting in the third place game. It's a real boost of confidence. What can it bring to the squad, players individually for the next 2 years until the World Cup?
Yeah, look, one of the things, and even when I spoke with Gabrielle this morning, is trying to, for me, the job of the players to develop themselves into what we're trying to become of a national team isn't done once they leave the national team. I told them they need to take the lessons that they've learned for what the level is, and then the kind of football that I'm encouraging with them, and how to apply that even now with their club teams. That's not the easiest thing for me to say or for them to execute, because their national team or their club team coach will often be asking them to do different things, tactically different things. But a lot of the things that I think that they learned when they spent the time with me can be applied to almost any playing style. And it's a little bit, there's some tactical things there, there's some technical things, there's some conceptual things. But what I tried to do in the end was not just about the playing style, but where I come from at the highest level and knowing what the best opponents are like and what the game is like at the highest level, trying to translate it to them so that they can convert themselves into players that can compete and be successful in those matches. And in the end, I think it will also provide them with a good foundation for how they can be successful and develop even when they're here with their clubs.
Hey, Jesse. 2022 World Cup. Kone was just entering the program. Schaffelberg wasn't there. Bombito wasn't there. A handful of players we just saw weren't there. So the team changed in the 18 months since. And I think we can all expect that the team is going to change in the next few years as well. How much do you expect it to change? How much do you want it to change in order to have the best team possible in 2020?
Do you mean and do you mean from a personnel perspective?
Yeah,
or
adding new talent, recruiting some new players.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, I told the players at the beginning of Copa America, I put a little title up on the screen and said 26 for 26. I said, what does that mean? And Fonzie raised his hand and he goes, 26 players for 2026 World Cup. I said, yes. And I said, look, every player in that room at that time was in pole position, right? And their job is to develop and to push themselves and to adapt and to understand what my standards are for the team moving forward. And their job was to make sure that they didn't let their position slip, right? And so, look, a lot of the players in the time we had together developed and adapted incredibly well. The one thing that I've said continually is the mentality and the spirit and the desire and from the team is very unique. And so I know that I can tap into that. And I also know that there's not a ton of room for development in terms of like the overall work ethic and mentality of the team. But it's about adapting to the football and to the intensity and to the expectations and understanding of what high-level international football is. And I think they were given a crash course in that, not just from the philosophy of the coach I am, but also from what the opponents require and demand. And now, again, the job is for them to continue to use that to catapult themselves in their own personal development when they're with their clubs.
Okay. And I read on Twitter, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said yesterday that there were 10 dual nationals that you were targeting to maybe
said up to 10.
Up to 10. So what's the plan there? What's the process going to be like?
So Kevin Blue's here today, and he is an incredible recruiter, as I learned how he got me here. And we're already developing strategies, and we're going to be calling on him and his experiences. I'm going to be doing some traveling and communicating. We're asking some of our leaders in the team to also be part of the recruitment process to try to we're identifying and then having the types of conversations to find the right kinds of players, dual nationals, to fit into what we're doing moving forward. And look, one of the things about being successful in Copa America is I think maybe some players who were considering or thinking that maybe the opportunity to go to a different nation might be better because they might be able to compete more at the international level. I think that now that we've shown that we can compete, that the recruitment process, I think, will be a little bit hopefully easier and cleaner, and to say, come to Canada and we can really make some big waves in the World Cup in 2026.
You speak a lot about the youth system and how it needs to change in Canada. There are a lot of talents here in Quebec that are maybe in, like Bombito, you said that were discovered on the late bloomers.
Yeah.
It's a general question, but it's also a specific question. Here at the club, they decided to dissolve the reserve team, and they don't have a club in MLS Next Pro. I wonder what you think about those decisions by the club here, and there's a lack of pro clubs in the province here too.
Look, I mean, every club has to use their resources to the best of their abilities to create a strategy around what they think is best for their club. So it's not my job to say that what club's doing well or not. Every club has their own strategy. I will repeat again. It is unacceptable that a player like Moise Bombito is not discovered until he's 23 years old. That's because his talent is I've coached some of the best center backs in the world, and this is what I told him. I've coached Upamecano, Konaté, Gvardiol. And his talent level is in that category. So we have to find a way as a Canadian soccer community how to create better infrastructure. From first, what we have to do is do a better job to create more funds and infrastructure for what we're doing with the national team program, so that we are more on top of the Canadian youth national teams, and we are identifying talent earlier and having them challenged within the style of football that we're trying to employ. And then we have to find a way to identify talent, to have better relationships, I think, in communities, so that everybody can help understand how to give the best players the best opportunities to develop as quickly as possible, so that they can be successful at younger ages. And in general, we've got to be able to tilt the bar from players being identified and developed at 22, 23, 24 years old, and be able to do it more at 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. That takes expertise. It takes commitment from a wide group of people to work together. It takes infrastructure from the national team program. So when people ask me, okay, so what are you going to do now till September? I'm like, I don't have as much time as I would like because there's a million things to do, and I'm just trying to prioritize right now what will be important for us to create the kind of infrastructure in this country to create better players earlier. And so the one way I've described it is my day job is to make the best national team that I possibly can. But my passion project is to develop the sport in this country and create better infrastructure at youth levels so that we're developing players faster and better.
Hi, Jesse. Just a little two-pronged question. With what we saw from Kone, and how important is his development to your 2026 project? And on that note, how will you touched on it a little bit, but how will you develop from afar? I mean, it's a bit of a new thing for you. Are you going to be keeping in contact with players while they're at their clubs? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I think, so first, Ismail, this club should be very, very proud of Ismail Kone. He is a big talent and has a massive future. I'm happy that he'll be in Marseille because where I'm at in Italy is pretty close, and so I'll be able to visit him. I'll be, and then the other part about how to develop the game here is I'll be on the ground here a lot. And then, whether it's coaching clinics, coaching symposiums, meeting with coaches, meeting with people inside the game, trying to use my experiences to provide whatever people want from me. I don't want to be here to shove things down people's throat and say, oh, I know everything better than what people here know. Like, the sport has been developed, and our player pool shows that. But we all, I think, can agree that it needs to be better. And I want to just use my experiences and expertise to help in whatever way I possibly can, along with Bev, right, on the women's side as well. So there's a lot of work to do, I think, to continue. Some people inside the CSA talk about national training centers. Some talk about better coaching education. Some talk about better academy systems and a better connection between academy systems. I think it's all of it. Right? It's not one thing. It's almost everything that we have to try to all work together to see how we can continue to develop the sport from a youth perspective so that in 10 years from now, the national team program is in a much better position, right? That's ultimately what the goal is. But, there's a lot of things to do, and I'm just trying to figure out how to – I haven't even – I've got lists upon lists, and now I need to prioritize, and now I need to think about action plans as to how we start to put things in place so that we can make a difference.
2 years ago, we had the feeling that the objective was to get in the room with the big boys. Now you get the feeling it's to be respected while in the room. A few times you spoke on halftime against Argentina, then you piggybacked on Bielsa's comments. How much of that is off the cuff? And how much of it is intentional and calculated to make sure that you make Canada a team that's actually respected?
I calculated my press conference before the Uruguay match. And part of it was, listen, we valued the third place game, okay, but in the most of the moment of the tournament, we just had our eye on, okay, take step by step, how can we give ourselves a chance to compete for a title? Which is crazy to say, right? Even just saying that out loud right now is like, doesn't seem rational. But we were there. And it was because of that focus. But then, I used that press conference in multiple ways to try to make statements about myself, our program, our players, and what we thought we deserved and where we think we want to go. So, I'm a little bit audacious. Okay, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. But I think in general, our program needs to have more audacity, and our players do as well. And I'm trying to build that in to our overall development process. So yeah, that was part of it. Was that press conference was part of that.
Just a quick one about Max Clopo, the fact it was so cold-blooded in those crucial moments, and he's your starter going forward.
Sorry, who?
Max Clopo.
Oh, sorry. Maxime. Listen, you guys know I was here when he was 18, and I signed him to his helped sign him to his first professional contract. He's grown massively since then. I think he performed incredibly at the tournament and adapted really well to me and to what I was asking of him and what I was asking of the team. I'm really proud of him. I'm really happy for him. And yeah, he's going to be a cornerstone of what we do moving forward, no doubt.